I think this particular time in history, people are waking up to possibilities. And you have to admit that when you become aware of something that didn't exist before, there's a change in consciousness. And so I think people, because of information at this current time in history, are just more informed. And because they're more informed, they're more conscious of possibilities. And so when you take a group of people and you give them sound scientific information, and as you said, science to me is the contemporary language of mysticism, that science can demystify the mystical. And if you can combine a quantum model of reality that says that somehow you're connected to everything, that your thoughts have an effect on the nature of reality, and if mind is an important element of that, then we better study and understand what mind is. So if you can combine some neuroscience, some neuroendocrinology, with some psychoneuroimmunology, the mind-body connection, and epigenetics that says that you're not doomed by your genes to be a certain way your entire life, that you could actually change your gene expression. So if you can take those ideals, those different models of science, and come up with something that represents a new model of being, and people can philosophically, theoretically, and intellectually understand it to the point where they can repeat it. It's important for them to repeat it, because if they can't repeat it, it's not wired in their brain. So if they can explain the what and the why and understand that model, we know that then the how gets a little bit easier. So if you can then put people in the practical experience of taking that information, that philosophical information, and making it practical, initiating it, applying it, personalizing it, demonstrating in some way, a certain percentage of people will actually do it properly, and they'll experience some type of transformation, some type of change. The experience then will enrich their brain circuitry and produce a feeling, and that feeling then teaches the body to understand what the mind is intellectually understood. So when we started out on this journey, it was primarily philosophical. It was, you could probably heal your body. Yeah, you could probably create a better life. But when we started actually seeing people change their health to all kinds of great measures, that's when I knew that it was time that we had to start taking measurements and looking to see what was going on in the brain. What was going on in the heart, in the gene expression, in the immune system, and in cellular biology, cellular health. And so we assembled a team of scientists and researchers to study common people, not anybody that was different, that had 40 years of meditation experience or was in a monastery or had any intellectual training. We wanted to just focus on common people. And so the research and the way we teach what we teach is from looking at what works and what doesn't work. We've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of brains. We've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of different hearts. So we've studied all kinds of gene expressions. We've looked to see what it is that's actually built. How do we take it from the brain to the body and all the way down to the cell? And what is that model? And so we have great evidence now in our scientific research about human potential. And we have great evidence and testimony in so many people who have actually applied what this formula of understanding of change could be. And we started seeing them standing up saying, my cancer's gone, my MS is gone, my lupus is gone, my Parkinson's is gone. I was paralyzed, now I can lift my arm. I was blind, I could see. I was deaf, I could hear. You start seeing some really dramatic testimony, and that testimony is the truth. That person is an example of the truth. And when people stand on the stage in our workshops and they tell their story of how they heal themselves, I just witnessed one 2 days ago at a workshop I was just at, and I watched the audience, and there wasn't a person moving. Everybody was just fixed on this person telling the story of how she healed herself, and it was beautiful. And she had all the scans, all the results, and everything. And it's a 4-minute mile. You break that level of consciousness, back to your question, And so you pierce through a level of unconsciousness to a greater level of consciousness. Now, there's evidence in front of you. It's possible, a greater possibility, a greater consciousness. Someone left a footprint for someone else to step into. And so we have evidence and testimony of evidence in scientific measurements, and evidence becomes the loudest voice. And so what we noticed is that if we could teach people really how to get beyond themselves, and what would, because that's what you asked, what does that mean? And we saw people's brains get worse when they were analyzing their life and trying to figure out their life, that they were driving their brain into higher stress levels and higher arousal states and making their brain more incoherent. We saw that analysis isn't going to do anything, that we have to get beyond the analytical mind. So we started figuring out ways to build an understanding of a model that we could teach people, that they could by volition be able to change their brain waves and learn how to do that. And what was it that helped them do that? And once they got beyond their conscious mind into their subconscious mind, then could they rewrite a program? Could they rewrite a behavior? Could they change some fundamental aspect of themselves? And if it was no longer about them healing, but it was more about whatever it was that the program was in the way of them healing, that's what it became about. They became more interested in the process of change than, and they understood that the side effect of that would be a change in their health, which is pretty much what we see over and over again. So it became something different, and we were able to teach it based on what we studied. And we know so many things about how the brain and body work, and now there's a movement taking place, and there's enough people doing it that it is becoming a little bit more normal, which is this is a great time for me. Absolutely. It's one of the things that I did discover as a result of talking to numerous people that really experienced profound transformation, is that people think, they come to the work for a lot of reasons. They may want to come for health, they may want to come for wealth, they want to come for success or the mystical, or just to be a better person. But what we found out over time is what everybody really wants is wholeness. Mm-hmm. That it's the process of becoming that really makes the difference. And when people start really connecting to the emotions of their future before they happen, before that experience happens, they feel like they're already in the experience. They feel like it's already happened, and that's an important element for the process of creation, because otherwise we're creating from separation or lack. And when people start managing their intentional thoughts, when they manage their emotional states, when they trade survival and limiting emotions for elevated emotions, and you teach them a practical tool on how to get back into a state of more wholeness, they're starting to demonstrate a level of self-love. And we see what that looks like in the heart. It gets highly organized and highly coherent. We see it, what it happens in the brain. It gets aroused, and the arousal is not fear, and the arousal is not pain, and the arousal is not aggression. The arousal is this state of ecstasy or this state of bliss, and it's coming from within the person. Now, this is a important point, because now they realize that there's nothing out there that they thought that they want could make them feel the way they're feeling when they start managing their inner world, right? So you start seeing that people start feeling like they're so whole they no longer want anything. And that tends to be the paradox of how their dreams actually happen, because now they're no longer creating from separation or polarity. In fact, they're creating from wholeness, and wholeness means that it already has happened on a biological level for people. So learning how to create from wholeness then creates this crazy thing where you feel so amazing. You feel so in love with life. You feel so grateful to be alive that you want other people to feel the way you feel. And the only way you can do that is to give. And the act of giving actually creates more of that feeling, which creates more of the chemicals for you to want to give. And all of a sudden you start creating a species of people that are really interested in caring for one another and being kind to one another and loving one another and supporting one another and informing one another and healing one another. It's just what the empathy of the species really is about, So by the end of our week longs, many people we can see on their physiological measurements are very, very coherent. and very orderly, and they're filled with love. They're filled with a love of life. They're filled with a joy for existence. They're filled with just the gratitude of being alive. And so if we could teach people a model of healing, and we can show them that there's research that shows that it's not matter that's emitting a field of energy. It's really that the field of energy is creating matter. So if you change the field, you change the hologram in three-dimensional reality. So we build a model of understanding that then takes the person's work from the entire week and builds a bigger model of application. But instead of it having it be about their wealth or about their new relationship or their new career, it's about someone else. And now they are going to give life to another person's life, and they're going to love another person into life. And they understand that they would have to get beyond their associations to everything physical and known. They practice that all week. They've learned how to create from the field instead of from matter. They're going to have to open their heart, because once energy makes it to the heart, it begins to produce a non-local effect, a connecting effect. It also is a frequency of more wholeness and oneness, which it takes to heal. And they're going to build a bigger model and apply all of that to another person. And they're going to have it be about them.